Picture this: your grandfather's shed, that distinct smell of oil and cut grass, and tucked in the corner, a weathered orange tractor that could plow, mow, and clear snow like nothing else. These weren't just machines, they were the workhorses that built suburban America. Today, we're counting down 10 legendary garden tractors from the 1960s that time forgot. 10. Springfield Suburban 66T. The Springfield Suburban might be the shortest-lived tractor on our list, but what a run it had. Built by Quick Manufacturing in Springfield, Ohio, these machines only rolled off the line from 1961 to 1966. The company had been making two-wheeled tractors since 1949, but when they launched the four-wheeled Suburban line in 1961, they targeted the exploding suburban market with precision. The 1962 Model 62A was their entry-level machine, while the 1965-65 T6 and 65T E6 represented the evolution of the line. These model numbers told the whole story: 65 for the year, T for tractor, E for electric start, and 6 for horsepower. In 1966, Springfield offered models like the 66TE8 and 66TE10, 8 or 10 horsepower Kohler in the Suburban line. The horizontal shaft, 10 horsepower Kohler K-Series engine models from 1965 to 1966 were the premium options, featuring 4-speed transmissions with reverse. Springfield cleverly rebadged these same tractors for Montgomery Ward as the Garden Mark series. The Garden Mark 10 and Garden Mark 8 were identical to Springfield models except for grills and paint. These tractors shared components with established brands. The transaxle was the same unit used in the John Deere 112, proving Quick Manufacturing wasn't cutting corners. Prices ranged from $495 for a basic 62T, $600 to $795 for a loaded 66TM E10 with all attachments. What killed Springfield? A devastating patent lawsuit with Simplicity in 1965 over rototiller designs drained their finances. By 1966, facing mounting legal costs and unable to compete with larger manufacturers' marketing budgets, Quick Manufacturing sold everything to Toro. The Springfield name vanished overnight, taking with it a brief but brilliant chapter in garden tractor history. Today, finding a 1966 model 66TE8 or 66TME10 with original fiberglass bodywork and functioning hydraulics is like striking gold. Parts diagrams and belt specifications remain scarce, making restoration a true challenge. Springfield dealers once stretched from Ohio to California, but now only dedicated collectors remember these well-engineered machines that deserved a longer production run. 9. Shaw Do, All Model, and 8. Stanley Shaw's company had been building tractors since 1924, but it was the late 1950s and early 1960s models that represented the pinnacle of Shaw engineering before the company's sudden demise. The 1958 Model N8, with its distinctive high-clearance design and 8-horsepower engine, was specifically built for the changing agricultural landscape of the early 1960s, when small acreage farming was giving way to large suburban lots that still needed serious equipment. The 1960 Shaw Model N5 was perhaps their most refined design, a 5-horsepower unit that balanced power with maneuverability. Serial numbers from this era show production of approximately 500 units annually. The 1961 Model R D7 riding tractor featured a 7-horsepower Wisconsin engine and could handle a 42-inch mower deck, 30-inch tiller, or snow blade. These final models incorporated decades of refinement, improved steering geometry, better weight distribution, and attachment systems that actually worked as advertised. The price for a fully equipped RD7 in 1961 was $695, substantial money when a new car cost $2,500. Shaw's attachment system was revolutionary for 1960. The quick change mechanism allowed operators to switch from mower to tiller to snowblade in under 5 minutes without tools. The Master Shaw Do All branding on these late models reflected confidence in their product. The 1962 catalog, the last ever produced, showcased the Model HY 8-high arch Master with 19 3/4 inch clearance, perfect for cultivating corn. This model used an 8-horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine and featured Shaw's patented adjustable wheel spacing system. The end came suddenly in 1962 when Stanley Shaw, then 81 years old, sold to Bush Hogg. After Shaw sold to Bush Hogg in 1962, many records, serial lists, and patterns were reportedly discarded. They produced lawn equipment in the former Shaw facility, but abandoned the do-all design completely. Today, the Shaw Do-All Club struggles to document these final models: the 1960 N5 1961, RD7 and 1962 HY8 are particularly rare, with perhaps 50 surviving examples total. Finding one with Shaw's original implements is the holy grail of garden tractor collecting. Before we move on to the next one in the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thanks to all of you who do. 8. Sears Suburban 12. When Sears phased out the David Bradley brand in the mid-1960s, they turned to Roper Corporation to build a new generation of heavy-duty garden tractors. The result was the Sears Suburban line machines that defined the late 1960s suburban boom. The Suburban 12, introduced in 1966, was powered by a 12-horsepower Tecumseh or Briggs engine and featured a 3-speed transmission with a high-low range, giving 6 total forward speeds. Electric start and belt-driven implements came standard, and the rugged Peerless transaxle made them durable workhorses. These tractors were built in Newark, Ohio by Roper for Sears. Attachments included mower decks, snow throwers, tillers, and blades. By the late 1960s, Sears was selling tens of thousands of Suburban tractors annually through its catalog, cementing their place in garden tractor history. These machines were the direct successors to the David Bradley Suburban 725, representing the corporate shift that marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. 7. David Bradley Suburban 725. While David Bradley had built tractors since 1910, the 1960 Suburban series represented their final and most refined garden tractors before the brand disappeared forever. The 1960 Suburban 725 launched the decade with a 7.25 horsepower engine and that distinctive David Bradley 3-point hitch that wouldn't accept any other manufacturer's implement's clever marketing or customer frustration, depending on your perspective. The 1961 Suburban 735 upped the ante with a 7.35 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine and used a conventional open rear axle typical of the period. The 1962 Super Suburban came in 600, 725, and 900 variants, with the 900 featuring a 9-horsepower Wisconsin engine and dual hydraulic controls. Sears catalogs from 1962 show the Super Suburban 900 priced at $649.95, positioned as the professional's choice for commercial landscapers and estate maintenance. The 1964 Suburban Custom Deluxe represented David Bradley's last hurrah. This model featured a 10-horsepower Kohler engine, electric start, lights, hour meter, and a padded seat with armrests, luxury features unheard of in garden tractors. The proprietary snap-fast hitch system could connect implements in seconds, though it meant you were locked into David Bradley attachments at premium prices. A fully equipped 1964 Custom Deluxe with mower, snow thrower, and tiller cost $1,149 more than some cars' down payments. The 1965 to 1966 models were essentially unchanged as the company prepared for its merger with Newark, Ohio Company. The final 1966 Suburban DB1066, David Bradley's first use of 4-digit model numbers, featured a 10-horsepower engine and came in meadow green or sunset orange. Only about 500 were made before production ceased forever. The merger with Newark, Ohio Company in 1962 and subsequent absorption by Roper in 1964 meant the David Bradley name, after 56 years, disappeared from Sears catalogs. Today, these final Suburban models are highly collectible. The 1964 Custom Deluxe especially commands premium prices, often exceeding $2,500 for restored examples. Finding one with the complete snap-fast attachment system is like finding buried treasure. 6. Allis-Chalmers B-10. When Allis-Chalmers entered the garden tractor market through their Simplicity partnership in 1961, the B1 was just a warm-up. The real star arrived in 1963, the B10, featuring a 9-horsepower engine that would evolve into one of the most recognizable garden tractors of the 1960s. This wasn't just a repainted Simplicity anymore. Allis-Chalmers engineers had added their own touches that made the B10 distinctly different from its Simplicity cousins. In 1965, the B10 transformed into the Big 10 with a 10-horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine, cast-iron transaxle, and that distinctive Persian orange paint that screamed Allis-Chalmers heritage. The 1966 B10 reverted to its original name when the B12 joined the lineup, but improvements continued: larger fuel tank, improved air cleaner, and stronger frame welds. By 1968, the B10 featured the PowerFlex seat that adjusted for operators from 5 feet 2 inches to 6 feet 4 inches, revolutionary ergonomics for the era. The 1969 B110 represented the B10's evolution, adding electric start as standard and offering an optional 42-inch mower deck with anti-scalp wheels. The B112, introduced alongside, featured a 12-horsepower engine and became the choice for commercial operators. These tractors were built in Port Washington, Wisconsin, where quality control meant something inspection sheets show 47 individual checkpoints before a tractor could ship. Prices ranged from $695 for a basic 1966 B10 to $1,095 for a loaded 1966 B10, 1970 B, 112, with all available options. The B10's attachment list was impressive: 32-inch and 42-inch mower decks, 32-inch tiller, 36-inch snow thrower, front blade, rear blade, and even a single bottom plow. The optional hydraulic lift kit, $125 in 1968, made attachment changes effortless. Production numbers peaked in 1969 with over 12,000 B10 variants built. When the B Series was redesigned in 1971 as the 300 series with Kohler engines and cream-colored hoods, the original B10 era ended. Today, collectors prize 1963 to 1970 B10s for their simplicity, durability, and that distinctive orange paint that represents Allis-Chalmers' golden age in garden tractors. 5. Simplicity Sovereign, 725 and 3112. The Simplicity Sovereign wasn't just introduced in 1966, it arrived with fanfare as Simplicity's flagship model. The original 1966 Sovereign 725 featured a 12-horsepower engine and set the template for the next 34 years of production. But it was the late 1960s models that truly established the Sovereign's legendary reputation for being overbuilt and understressed. The 1967 Sovereign 3112 introduced the squared-off hood that became iconic. This model featured Simplicity's exclusive controlled traction differential and a transmission so robust it was rated for 500 foot-pounds of torque, 10 times what the engine could produce. The 3112H added hydrostatic drive, making it one of the first garden tractors to offer infinitely variable speed control. At $1,195, it cost more than many used cars, but commercial landscapers considered it a bargain for its reliability. The 1968 Sovereign Special Edition commemorated Simplicity's acquisition by Allis-Chalmers with unique two-tone paint and chrome accents. Only 500 were made, each with a brass serial number plate signed by William Niederkorn, Simplicity's founder. The 1969 Sovereign 738 expanded the line downward with an 8-horsepower engine for homeowners who wanted Sovereign quality without the price tag. This model at $695 became their best seller, proving the market existed for premium residential equipment. These early Sovereigns featured innovations that wouldn't become standard elsewhere for decades: sealed beam headlights with high, low beam switch, tilt steering wheel, power takeoff with overrunning clutch, and a floating mower deck that followed ground contours. The variable speed drive system was so smooth that Simplicity's ads showed operators holding full coffee cups while mowing. Frame construction used 3/16-inch steel, twice the thickness of competitors, explaining why these tractors regularly appear at shows still wearing original paint after 50-plus years. By 1969's end, Simplicity had built over 25,000 Sovereigns. The 1966-1969 models established design principles that remained virtually unchanged through 2000. These early sovereigns, especially the 1967 3112 and 1968 Special Edition, command premium prices today. Collectors pay $3,000 plus for pristine examples, knowing they're buying the Mercedes-Benz of garden tractors from the era when that really meant something. 4. Bolens Husky 800 1050 and 1250. The Bolens Husky series of the 1960s represented everything great about American engineering excess. The 1963 Husky 800 started the revolution with its 8-horsepower Wisconsin S8D cast iron engine, a motor so overbuilt that many still run today with nothing more than oil changes. This wasn't a lawn tractor pretending to be tough. It was a miniature farm tractor that happened to cut grass. The 1966 Husky 1500 became the legend. With its 10-horsepower Wisconsin engine, 6-speed transmission with dual range, giving 12 forward speeds, and standard electric lighting, this machine meant business. The Model 1054 variant added hydraulic lift and cost $795 serious money, but you got serious machine. The cast iron transaxle alone weighed 85 pounds. The entire tractor tipped scales at nearly 800 pounds, making modern garden tractors look like toys. The 1967 introduction of the large-frame Husky 1250 changed everything. This beast featured a 12-horsepower engine and Bolens' revolutionary hydrostatic transmission with the treadle pedal control step on the right side to go forward, left side for reverse, with infinite speed variation. The 1968 Husky 1455 pushed to 14 horsepower, while the 1969 Husky 1476 and 1477 variants offered different transmission options with the same 14 horsepower Wisconsin engine. These weren't just model numbers, each represented genuine engineering improvements. Attachments for these 1960s Huskies were commercial-grade 48-inch mower decks with gauge wheels, 42-inch two-stage snow blowers that could throw snow 40 feet, rotary tillers that could break new ground, and even Model 18,518 backhoes with 6-foot digging depth. The front-end loader attachment could lift 600 pounds. Try that with your modern lawn tractor. Prices reflected the quality. A loaded 1969 Husky 1476 with mower, tiller, and snowblower cost $1,695. Production numbers for the 1960s, Huskies exceeded 50,000 units. The Port Washington, Wisconsin factory ran 2 shifts to meet demand. When FMC sold Bolens in 1987, these 1960s Huskies had established a reputation that modern Bolens products can't touch. Today, finding a Husky 1050 or 1250 from the 1960s means you found a machine that'll outlive you. 3. Economy Power King, 14 horsepower. While engineering products companies started in 1946, the 1960s models represented their sweet spot between post-war crude construction and later corporate confusion. In the 1960s, the line is known as Economy Power King. e.g. 14 horsepower appears 1968 to 1977. The early 1960s Jim Dandy and Power King models were about to get a major upgrade that would define the brand for decades to come. The 1968 models introduced significant upgrades, improved 3-point hitch that could actually lift 800 pounds, power takeoff that ran at proper 540 RPM, and a creeper gear for tilling. By 1968 to 69, the attachment catalog was staggering: sickle bar mowers, rotary mowers from 32 to 48 inches, tillers, cultivators, plows, disc harrows, snow blowers, and even buzz saws for cutting firewood. Wisconsin serial number records suggest about 8,000 Economy Power King tractors were built in the 1960s. The transition to the numbered naming system in the mid-1970s makes these 1960s models particularly interesting to collectors. They're the same tractors, but with the original names. Finding a late 1960s Economy 14 HP with original paint and decals is increasingly rare, but rewarding. 2. Wheelhorse 9531054 and 1067. Wheelhorse's 1960s lineup represented their transition from garage-built tractors to serious manufacturing. The 1963 model 953 was their first large-frame garden tractor, featuring a 9.6 horsepower engine and 15-inch wheels with 27-inch tires, massive for the era. This wasn't just a bigger tractor, it was Wheelhorse's entry into the commercial market. The 1964 model 1054 upgraded the concept with a 10-horsepower engine and improved transmission. Wheelhorse also acquired REO's snow thrower line that year, instantly becoming a major player in snow removal equipment. The 1965 1057 pushed to 10.5 horsepower and added the first factory cab option, the snow cab, that cost $195 but included a heater. The 1966 lineup exploded the economy 607, mid-range 857, and premium 1057, 1077, and 1277 models covered every market segment. By 1967, models like the 1067 offered a 6-speed with a high-low arrangement. The 867, 1067, and 1267 featured Wheelhorse's new high-low range system, giving 12 forward speeds total. The 1967 Charger 12 with automatic transmission targeted homeowners wanting car-like convenience. At $1,095, it was Wheelhorse's most expensive model, featuring electric start, lights, and that uni-drive automatic that Wheelhorse developed in-house. The 1968 model year brought names instead of just numbers: Commando, Model 607 replacement, Raider, Model 1067 Evolution, and the Electro 12 with electric clutch. The 1969 Raider 10 became the volume seller at $795, while the Charger 14 at $1,295 competed directly with International Harvester's Cub Cadet. Production numbers soared 25,000 units in 1967, 31,000 in 1968, and 38,000 in 1969, 1,969. Special mention goes to the 1968 500 Special sold only in Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio to commemorate Wheelhorse's 500,000th tractor. Just 500 were made with special paint, chrome wheels, and a plaque signed by Cecil Pond. These 1960s Wheelhorses established design principles that lasted through Toro's ownership. The 953, 1054, and especially the 1067 remain highly sought after, with collectors paying premium prices for original examples with period attachments. 1. International Harvester Cub Cadet, 7124. International Harvester didn't just enter the garden tractor market in 1961, they redefined it. The Cub Cadet Original, produced from 1961 to 1963, set a new standard with a 7-horsepower Kohler engine, a gear drive transmission built to handle far more torque than it produced, and the now iconic yellow and white paint scheme that made neighbors jealous. It cost more than competitors, but IH wasn't trying to be cheapest. They were building the best. The Model 70 and 100, released in 1963, expanded the lineup with 7 and 10 horsepower options while keeping the same rugged drivetrain. Mid-decade brought the 122 12-horsepower gear and 123 12-horsepower Hydro, which introduced hydraulic lift and narrow frame construction that became a Cub Cadet trademark. By 1967, the 124 and 125 arrived with updated styling and refinements that turned the series into a dominant force in the high-end residential market. These machines were overbuilt in typical IH fashion, capable of running implements that would stall lesser tractors. Attachments were a major part of the appeal: 38 to 50-inch mower decks, 2-stage snow throwers that could launch snow 40 feet, moldboard plows, cultivators, disc harrows, and even sickle bar mowers. All used Category 0 style hitches, giving owners real versatility. The Brownsburg, Indiana plant producing these tractors employed 1,200 workers and could build 500 units per shift. By the end of the decade, IH was producing well over 100,000 garden tractors annually, setting standards that competitors would chase for years. Today, early Cub Cadets, especially the original 70 and 100 and 124, remain some of the most collectible machines of the 1960s garden tractor boom. These 10 tractors tell the story of American innovation, when small companies with big ideas could compete with giants. They were built when a handshake was a contract, and your tractor lasting 30 years wasn't remarkable. It was expected. Today's machines might start easier and run quieter, but they'll never have the soul of these classics. Whether you're hunting for one in a barn or maintaining Grandpa's pride and joy, remember, you're not just preserving a machine, you're keeping a piece of American history alive. If you enjoyed diving into this forgotten world of vintage iron, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments which of these legendary machines did you or your family own.